Funky Politics.
Funky Politics Show.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics. Powered by MLGW. Memphis like gas and water.
Keeping it real, right, and funky. Funky Politics. Politics. Politics.
Rock steady, baby. That's what I feel now. Let's call the song exactly what it is. Step, move your hips.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, sitting here along with Doc Ward. Doc, how are you, sir?
Man, we funkier than sweat socks and cold chitlins, brother, every end of the day.
Now that's really funky now. Hold on.
And I'm talking about sweat socks mixed up with the cold chitlins.
Now, wait a minute. I refuse to eat. Man, you out of your mind. I've never heard that before.
You refused to eat them when they came up. Well, as long as they were mixed with the sweat socks.
No, sweat socks.
But you eat chitlins, man?
I love them.
Man,
I love them.
You got to turn that pork away, man.
Yeah, I got to do a lot. Look, in 2018, I'm looking at a healthier me.
There you go.
I just hadn't gotten there yet, but I'm looking
at
it.
Healthier. You be the change you want to see.
I'm trying to be best. Yeah. I'm really trying to be best.
There you go. There you go. But we rocking at you. Chocolate City, New Chocolate City, Memphis, Tennessee, as always. And this is that region of time where we celebrate, commemorate the death of the king of rock and roll.
Yeah.
But we've just really now
come to grips, so
with
to speak,
the fact that the king now is gone and now the queen is gone.
Queen of Soul, baby.
Aretha Franklin, Memphis born, Memphis bred. Memphis born, Detroit bred. We ain't gonna take that away from Detroit.
No, I won't do that. Won't do that.
But definitely an icon in the music world, an icon in the civil rights world, icon in our world always. But man, I'm gonna tell you something. I like music, man. I really like music, and that's why I'm kind of upset right now about this whole thing about her passing. But I really like jazz music. I like scatting. I like Ella Fitzgerald. I like when the late great Al Jarreau used to do it, that whole scatting thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But I have not heard any scatting like I heard with Kellyanne Conway, where they asked her how many black folks in the White House.
She said,
Gerard.
We all have a Gerard in our offices, right?
Everybody's got a Gerard. We got a Gerard, too.
We got a Gerard, yeah.
We got a Gerard.
Gerard Lewis.
Gerard is our, he's in the office.
That's right.
And we know what? We're going to tell you right now, we've got the Funk-Nomenal Woman with us today, Wendi Thomas.
Yes, sir.
She's going to break it down to us, coming back from MLK50. And we're going to be right back with you. We're going to go find Gerard, and we're going to come right back to you on Funky Politics. So you just rock steady, keep it in the flow. We're going to give you something you can feel, and you're going to respect us right here on Funky Politics.
You know what? I want to make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget, there's a new way to listen to Funky Politics. Just text FUNKY to 72,000. That's right, FUNKY, Funky to 72,000. Right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Don't be in that chain of fools. Check us out.
Podcasting the funk. Funky Politics.
Best in Blue.
Are you all seeing that as a tie with the gang culture in Memphis?
I don't think that we can attribute all of that to gang violence or gang initiation.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
And you're listening to Funky Politics.
Funky Politics. Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, one of the hosts of this wonderful program, sitting here along with my great co-host, Doc Ward. Doctor, how are you, sir?
I'm funkier than the back of a dust cart at a red light.
Oh, my.
You know how you ride up on the dust cart and it's empty and you're like, hey, something's stinking.
That's funky.
That's funky.
That's really
especially when it's empty. When it's full, you can kind of do, but that funk at the end when it's like empty, it's like nasty.
I'm getting that visual and I don't like it. But anyway, we are sitting here and visiting with a good friend of ours who's been on the program many times before. And
she's funky too. She's not dust cart funky.
No, she's not dust cart funky. She's
I showered today. I will have you know.
So that's him I'm smelling?
Yes.
We've got Wendi Thomas.
I thought the breeze was coming from the west.
We got Wendi Thomas with us, folks, right here on Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The original Funk-Nomenal Woman, man.
Yeah, that's right. You are a Funk-Nomenal Woman.
You act like she's never been here before.
I did. I said she's been with us many times.
Yeah, she's even got a name.
What is that name?
I just said it.
Funk-Nomenal?
Yes.
I could think of some other names, but I will go with Funk-Nomenal. Hey, look, welcome back home. Welcome back home. No, good names. Good names.
It's good to be here.
Yeah,
good to have you.
It's always good to be with y'all.
Good to have you.
Let's talk about what you've been doing since you opened up this space, MLK50.
Yep.
And we were just talking a little bit about it. And MLK50, to your credit, I think the pieces that you all wrote and some of the photography, and it was wonderful.
Celebration of fine journalism.
And I will say this, it started a year ago.
Right.
I mean, almost to the day, if I'm not misunderstood, or a little bit before.
Yeah.
So she ran a year-long program because you were here with us, and we've talked about it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so congratulations on a wonderful journey from a year ago to now, as we are sitting here now. And now my question is, now what, Doc?
What's next?
What's next? What have you done since then, and what's coming up? And
but we're not saying like what's next is like your fault or you have to do something.
Oh, right.
Clearly it's not hers.
But we're just saying like what's
next?
Yeah, what's
next?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say first that I am very, very proud of my team and the work they did.
Yeah.
Starting April 4th, 2017 through, actually we stopped publishing April 16th, 2018 because that was the day that the strike ended.
Wow.
So we went through that date, trying to uplift and raise the issues that King would be raising if he were still alive. And so, I think the city, and maybe to some degree also the nation, was kind of building to this crescendo on April 4th, 2018, the actual date of the anniversary.
Hum to roar.
A lot of pomp and circumstance and what have you, but the issues that King was talking about, we're still kind of grappling with, and it's like it's all kind of been pushed to the side, which is disappointing.
So what was the expectation? Did you think that maybe perhaps the local government was going to take the lead, that corporate America was going to take the lead, that Black America was going to take the lead? What were we expecting to be done after all of the pomp and circumstance, deflated?
Yeah, I don't know that I had any grand expectations at all. It would have been nice if local government had done things that went past putting up a park, right? Which at the end of the day doesn't put money in anybody's pockets or substantially change the quality of living for all the poor people that are living in this city. It would have been nice if corporate America did more than, put some quotes about King on their Facebook page, the safe quotes, King's safe quotes.
Right.
Yeah, on their Facebook page, and they had maybe, committed to paying their workers a living wage. But we didn't see that at all. Although we did see that with Shelby County Schools, City of Memphis, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield. Also, all of those agreed to raise the pay of their lowest paid workers to at least $15 an hour.
So that was a positive.
Yeah, those are positives. Okay. Those are positives. And I would like to think that my team and their reporting on living wage issues helped create an environment where they felt like that was a good move to make.
Well, let's talk. So now we've gotten to April 4th. We've gotten to the mountaintop, so to speak. And I think that there were people that came to our city. They saw the best. And I think they probably saw some things that they didn't think they would see in a city this size.
Like what?
There were some things. I think we know what those things are. I don't have to tell them what they are.
I want you to tell me.
I'm not going to say.
What? Say it.
Anyway.
What?
So, but now that we're here, where do we go tomorrow, though? And
I want you to be transparent, though.
I'm trying not to be. Where do we go from here, though, Wendi? April 4th has now gotten by us by a few months now. And have we laid a foundation, or is the foundation set to now we can start attacking the real vestiges of poverty in the city of Memphis? I mean, in Shelby County, have we gotten to that point where we've gotten these blue ribbon committees
of inequality? Really?
Inequality. Yeah, sure.
Poverty is a attribute. Not attribute. Poverty is a derivative.
It's a symptom.
Okay, so it's outgrowth. Okay, great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
with my team and our work. But the status quo is powerful. I think if I see any room for hope, it might be in the political arena where we've had some shifts and changes that. Yeah, that maybe get us to more progressive.
I want to talk about that later.
We'll overhauls. We'll get to that down the line.
I want to talk about, but I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
We had all of these folks. We had the eyes on the city of Memphis and in this area in Shelby County. What have we accomplished since that day? Since we had this great outpouring of guests here, and we spent all this money.
You got to give it time, though.
4 months we should have done. Have we done anything? I'm asking the question.
Come on now, we're trying to deal with 400 years of institutional racism.
So we start yesterday then, right? We don't start tomorrow. We start yesterday then, right? I mean,
so I think part of the beginning steps is raising consciousness, right?
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things that good journalism can do.
Sure.
Is keep these issues top of mind, and that's what my team is going to be doing going forward. Is writing some really in-depth pieces on poverty, power, and public policy. And so I think where you can get people to that intersection and see how this stuff. Everything is related, everything is interconnected.
Sure.
Then they can start to try to see, once they know what the systems are, they can try to work to dismantle those. And I think a lot of it is about holding people accountable.
And everybody has a role. Because you're saying your team is going to keep the consciousness level high so that the consciousness doesn't die. And a lot of times that's the problem, because the consciousness dies.
Because
people
the lights
forget
are
about
off.
It. The lights are off, the doors closed,
Yeah.
It's super dark, it's like, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
But keeping it top of mind keeps everybody in that frame of mind to want to do, should keep people in the frame of mind to want to do better. Be better.
And
so
that's what we hope here on Funky Politics, right?
Yeah, but we're doing the same thing, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
But now the question is, who else is going to be involved? Is the faith-based community going to be involved? Is the nonprofit community going to be involved? Is the corporate community going to be involved? Is the government community going to be involved? What are your roles? Because everybody has a role. This is an all hands on deck sort of situation.
And that's what we want our listeners to know. What is your role, especially those in our local areas?
Right.
What can we do as citizens in the local area to make sure that the dream never dies?
Right.
That it never dies, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of what we do. And speaking of never dying, I want to kind of segue into another piece right quick, and I don't want to stay there too long, but there was a little tiff out there, and we talked a little bit about some politics that just occurred here in Shelby County. There was this bout that was on. I don't know, it was a boxing match.
How does that relate to Never Dies?
Because I think this guy died. I mean, politically he did, but that's all.
Who's
I know.
the guy?
David Lenoir. There was this David Lenoir, Wendi Thomas battle scheduled, and I think he may have thought it was on schedule. He didn't show up for the fight.
Actually, it's sort of like this. It's like,
what is it? Then tell me.
I think it's kind of like the Grizzlies are scheduled to play the Mavericks, but the Grizzlies decide they want to go and play the Tigers, and then they lose.
Oh.
Just understand what I'm saying.
Hold
I mean, I think.
I know mine was bad. Yours is worse.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why I said, mine. No, it's not bad. It's just funky. It's like you're in a race against a candidate.
Sure.
Your emphasis should be against that candidate.
Right.
You should not be in a race against the journalists. Journalists are there to report to the people based on what they see and what they hear. You're not going to win any points.
I wasn't on the ballot.
A journalist.
That's
what I'm saying. You're not on the ballot.
Journalists have more ink.
And and if there is a so-called political death, it comes from fighting an opponent that is not in a war with you. And you'll lose that every time. Look at what's happened to the president right now.
Let's talk a little bit about that, though,
Yeah.
Wendi. Let's talk a little bit about that perceived battle that was out there, because some people think there was something to it.
Right.
Round one, the NAACP forum.
Before we get there, set it up for us. So,
I'm trying to do that.
So David Lenoir was the Republican candidate for Shelby County mayor. Was also elected as county trustee.
Right.
I understand that the first time he voted actually was when he ran for office 8 years ago. So take that for what it will be. But
Well, if you got to start, I mean, that's
I guess.
start somewhere. Vote for yourself.
Wow.
So the NAACP invited me to moderate a mayoral debate. It was going to be held at the Civil Rights Museum, and I said, sure, be glad to. Make sure both of the candidates want to participate. And so David signed on. Lee Harris, who ended up winning the race, he signed on.
The Democratic candidate.
The Democratic candidate signed on. I'm out of town in D.C. minding my business. I get a phone call that he's pulling out of the debate because he feels like I'm not going to be a fair moderator.
He doesn't like you.
Now, I hadn't even been involved in the questions that the NAACP was preparing, any of the logistics.
You were just a moderator, right?
Right, because I'm out of town. I'm on vacation. I flew back to Memphis specifically to do this debate. So I'm like, what in the world is going on? And here's part of this that I have not talked about publicly before, in part because I did not want to make it seem like it was personal between me and him.
Sure.
And I didn't want to honestly affect in any way try to make it seem like I was trying to affect the outcome of the election. Because people should vote for whoever they think is best, and
That's right.
what he's doing with me shouldn't have anything to do with it. So he said that there were some comments that I'd made on social media that he felt like were intemperate and suggested that I wasn't going to be fair in the debate. And so I He never came to me and said any of this. But I found out what one of the comments was, and it was actually made by Bruce Van Wingarden of the Memphis Flyer. Bruce had said I had posted something on social media, and I said, hey, I'm going to be moderating this debate. If y'all have questions, let me know.
Right.
I saw that too, by the way.
Right. So Bruce said, he had a list of like 3 questions, and the last one was, and ask him if he's an a-hole. I replied to Bruce, is there another way to phrase that? Because as a moderator, I'm not asking that man that. That's a crazy question.
Right. Yeah.
Then on my Facebook page, someone called.
They ask me that all the time, but it's okay.
Is there another way you can phrase it?
Well, I'm just saying, like, what is the point you're trying to get to?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So I didn't tell Bruce, yes, I will add that to my list of questions.
Sure.
So then a brother actually on my Facebook page, once it was revealed that David was pulling out, called him the same word that Trump said he was grabbing women by. Oh, right. Wow. And I replied, let's not call people names. If you go on my Facebook page, that's something that I just do. We can disagree, you can dislike somebody, but you're not going to call them names on my page. And because of 2 things that 2 other men said, he said he was going to pull out of the debate. And in both cases, I was in some way coming to his defense, saying, no, I'm not going to ask that question.
Journalist,
and no, don't call this man a name. And that's why he backed out. But when I think about it, if he were smart, or his advisors were smart, he would have let me moderate, because instead I was on the front row tweeting the whole time. So you kind of create a space for me to be critical of the decision you made. And he kind of like ran with it from there, and I guess decided that he was going to try to run against me, right? And I have to believe, and I'll say this, I think that he was getting that advice, right? So there are Republican operatives here in Shelby County who were telling him, looking at the polls and saying, this is what you should do.
It's almost like a Maxine Waters piece, right?
Yeah, he was trying to make me the Maxine Waters of Memphis, frankly.
Except they didn't look at the date. It wasn't 1998, it was 2018. I mean, because once upon a time, that might have gotten them some mileage. I think when you were writing for the Commercial Appeal, perhaps, it might have gotten them some mileage, but you haven't done that in, I don't know.
I haven't been there in 4 years.
That's what I mean. And so, now, and even now, you're a Republican, okay? You're a Republican. You're part of a party that is absolutely subjugated to Donald Trump in a city full of Democrats, in a city full of African Americans. Do you really think you're going to get some mileage bashing an African American woman? That's got to be the most ridiculous thing in the world to me. And I saw it, and David's been on our show, and has been a friend, but I saw it, and I don't know who was advising him, but that's the worst advice that I've ever heard of. It's
probably about as bad as running those campaign mailers with
let's talk about that
with Lee Harris's picture on them. They were darkened.
Let's segue on into that.
Yeah, so he sent out these flyers. There were 2 of them, and one of them they've taken a picture of Lee Harris and made the brother just super dark. Nothing wrong with dark men. Love chocolate men.
I am myself. So
it's fine as frog hair.
That's what I like. And I am fine as frog hair. But go ahead, please. I don't know.
Frog hair.
Yeah, but he took this photo of Lee Harris, and he's put money in his hand, making it look like he's raining.
Right.
Lee's a brown-skinned brother, but he had him looking like almost blue-black in that ad.
And
we know what the stereotype is of darker people.
So was that code?
It was absolutely code. Okay. It was absolutely code. It was a racist signal.
Somebody didn't look at the old Bob Corker, Harold Ford Jr. thing. With the call me Harold kind of thing.
This was a reprisal of that, you think?
You're right. The pimp stereotype doesn't work well in elections. It doesn't. It didn't work well for Bob Corker. He just had an overwhelming amount of people in East Tennessee supporting him. Had he not, that would have really been an issue for him winning the Senate back then too.
Well, I'll say this: the code didn't work this time.
It's never going to work. The code is busted.
That's why That's why you're listening to Funky Politics right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Can't talk to you now. I got love to get. When my baby calls, I gotta jump to it. 'Cause I'm in a hurry.
Politics is what we do. We just make it funky.
Powered by MLG&W, Memphis Light Gas and Water.
And I'm not alluding to the president being a nut. I really am not.
No, you're not alluding to it. You're saying it, basically.
And I'm not comparing him to Hitler or Mussolini, but you had these people who were homegrown.
So why'd you even bring him up?
Okay, I'm going to let that go. Go ahead, Cornell.
I mean,
this is really getting fucking. I don't want to call the president a nut.
No, that's why.
And our personal friends.
You don't want to.
I've been to the Trump Tower, and I've had my golden shower.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
Wow. Okay. funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics
on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
Keeping it real, right, and funky. Funky Politics.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, one of the hosts of this program, sitting alongside my great co-host, Doc Ward. Doctor, how are you, sir?
Man, funkier than a high school gym after a highly intense state basketball showdown.
With the best team in town.
2 best teams in town.
Well, you know what? We got one of the best.
You know how the whole gym, when you were in high school, the whole gym would be fun. It'd just be 10 people playing.
No, I went to White Station. We had a ventilated gym.
All right now.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And a sorry team.
Whatever.
Oh.
But we're visiting today with one of the best journalists that this country has ever produced. Yeah. And I would say a worldwide journalist, noted journalist, and that would be our very own Wendi Thomas. Hey, Wendi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are y'all?
We're doing good. We're doing good here on Funky Politics. Welcome back home. We call it home for you because you've been here so many times. Yeah. And we want to get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on in these United States of America with what appears to be an assault. I mean, what appears? Hell, let's quit dancing. There's an assault on black folk, especially black women.
Black women more so.
Black women, as of late,
black men have been moved out of the picture.
Yeah, they've already beat the hell out of us. Yeah. All right, but I'm gonna throw Omarosa there because I'm gonna invite her to my picnic. Now she can't eat anything, but she can come and sit in the front yard.
Yeah, she can come to my picnic.
But even the assault on her, the terms that are used with her were the most degrading I've ever heard anybody say. Let alone the president of the United States of America.
Well, it's not just Omarosa. It's
Jamel Hill. It's all of them.
Hill. It's Michelle Obama.
It's Maxine Waters.
It's Frederica Wilson. It's the wife of LaDavid Johnson. You know, we've heard dogs, empty barrels, and not smart persons, and all of these things that seem to indicate that black women do not have the requisite intellect to even function. Forget about being in a job, but it's coming from white males. And white males are supposed to be in power. So let's just go ahead and talk about it for what it is. It ain't funky politics because we skirt around the issue.
No, let's call it what it is.
Reverend William Barber said that you know how powerful you are by how hard they try to fight you.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that...
but Omarosa said, if I'm in a fight with a bear, pray for the bear.
I don't know.
Omarosa cannot come to my picnic.
Okay, she can't come to yours.
For the record,
she can come to my picnic.
She can't come to mine.
We'll let her sit at the little table with the plastic forks in there.
Or whatever. But no, let's get into that. Let's break this thing down, Wendi. There's an assault. There is an assault out there.
Full on.
How do you stop an assault like this if it's coming out of the White House with the highest elected office in the land?
I don't know that you can. No. I think that plays to his base.
Yeah.
I think they like that. I think the fact that he used the word in a tweet, a dog, and not the word he probably wanted to use.
Which would still be a dog, but
right. Just a female dog, same difference.
There you
go. It's absolutely denigrating, saying that, Maxine Waters is low IQ. Right. I think Trump has displayed an absolute loathing for women, just women of any race, period, and then black women in particular.
Right.
And it's scary. I think that it emboldens other people to do the same thing. He's taken things that were completely considered deviant and making them the norm. And, a lot of racist people, a lot of his followers, I won't call all of his followers racist, but there's that Venn diagram, there's some overlap.
Well, like they say, all the Trump followers are not racist, but all racists are Trump followers.
Oh, come on now. Come on. And I understand how you can draw the correlation.
And you think there's a racist that's a Barack Obama follower?
No, probably
no.
not.
All right, then. I rest my case.
Now you
can go ahead. Please, let the Funk-Nomenal Woman speak.
Please.
Well, I'm just saying it's disheartening. But again, I think it speaks to our power and the strides that we're making across, the country. That there is a Maxine Waters for Trump to try to drag is a good thing. That there is a Kamala Harris that people would try to come for. That's a good thing. That we have a Stacey Abrams, possibly going to become, the first black woman governor in Georgia. That's a good thing. And I think, black women are kind of seen as superwomen, and I can't say that these attacks don't hurt. I mean, they hurt. Like, you're still human.
Right.
And we feel those things, but Yeah, we don't have any choice but to keep going.
I'll say this. Some of us don't have wives. Some of us don't have daughters, but we all got mothers.
Right.
We all got mothers. And for a change, we as a country, we as black men and others who believe the same thing, we need to stand up. We need to make sure that this guy hears us. You cannot trash our women like this, dog.
But I think we are standing up, though.
You can't do it.
I think
we need to shout it from the mountaintop.
I mean, I'm sure, it needs to be verbal and it needs to be intentional in that regard. But I think we're standing up every time you see these races that were these electoral races in these Republican areas that are either the Republican is barely winning or not winning at all. And anytime you see these clean sweeps like what happened in Memphis, where the whole slate just about turns Democrat, you're speaking in those ways. The infrastructure of our society is changing. It's speaking because that's the way that you talk to them.
Well, that's why we encourage it right here on Funky Politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network. We do.
And that's what it's going to take because the 38% is 38%.
That's right.
But 38% is not what you need to win an election of any kind.
Well, let me ask you this. The abuse that's being spewed now, do you think it's okay? Or because it's coming out of Washington, it's coming out of the high throngs of our government, do you think it's a scene that it's okay, even on the local levels, the state levels, with his base?
With Trump's base?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it in the Shelby County mayoral race, right, where the Republican candidate for mayor was coming for me, a black woman, even though I'm not on the ballot, was not on the ballot. But someone told him, or maybe he determined that would play to his base, that would get voters out, and he was wrong and got beat like he stole something.
Two somethings.
Wow.
But yeah, it works. It works. But I think the counter to that, the antidote to that, is black folks showing up and voting, and people who don't agree with these attacks on black women going to the polls. And so, just as he thought it was a motivator for his base, I think it might have been a motivator for progressives to go to the polls, because they're like, we're not going to have that.
I would even say that white Democrats stayed home too. Typically, you see a significant fall off where they like the Republican candidate, especially in Shelby County. I will tell you right now, from the numbers that I've seen, they stayed home, and when I mean home, they stayed with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's
why they didn't stay home literally.
I was going to say no.
They stayed in the Democratic home, okay,
right.
And that was very encouraging because in the past you've seen a very significant drop off where you've seen a sheriff's candidate get 80,000 votes, but then you see the person for county trustee get about 60, and
the numbers don't add up.
Exactly. So, and I guess another thing I want to address with this piece is that from a local standpoint. And then from a national standpoint, there's not much air in between when it comes to this. I guess we've just said it here, between these racist comments that they're making.
But I also think, though, and you can take it for what it's worth, you're seeing out of these insults really is the legitimacy of the black woman as a candidate. Because you've never had as many black women running as you have right now. And I think that through these attacks, they're actually showing that black women are formidable candidates. If they weren't formidable, you wouldn't get all of this right now. You wouldn't get this narrative that's being portrayed. I don't know whether or not Dana White, what her situation is going to be. But she's getting a lot more press right now at the preliminary stages of her investigation than Scott Pruitt got over years. I mean, after golden toilets and
phone booths
and all the other stuff,
expensive
lotions from Trump Tower and all of that.
Expensive lotions.
And we kept on piling on. We were like, when is this guy going to leave? But she's already getting a lot more scrutiny at a very early time.
Well, we don't have the same margin of error, right?
No,
so we make one mistake.
But your legitimacy the legitimacy is being recognized through all of the insults. You don't fight anything that you're not intimidated by or scared of.
Well, let me pose this to you: the initial attacks on Maxine Waters, and this was several months ago, right?
Yeah.
So the initial attacks on Maxine Waters, were we vocal enough then? Were we really? Did we get mad enough? Because I recall the thing right now, Max, didn't just start a month or two ago. There was something that occurred about a year ago.
Yeah.
And he really went in on her. And Frederica Wilson, did we galvanize? I don't think we galvanized him.
That was John Kelly.
But he's an extension of the president, though.
Right.
But and then of course the president said this.
Well, I think the press attacked him first of all because because aside from his attacks, John Kelly's attacks on Frederica Wilson, one, they were inappropriate. Because they were dealing with the situation of a fallen veteran doing a mission that was questionable anyway, given that veteran's experience.
They couldn't answer.
But number two, everything that he said was a lie.
Yeah.
It was a lie. So forget about the insult part. We can't even get to the insult because you're lying. You understand what I'm saying? The whole thing about what he was saying, she got up in front of some dedication and said she did when she did none of the kind. You know, and then called her empty barrel and all that stuff. That was the press assaulted him for that, and he took a lot of heat for it. You know, he kind of went dark for a little while.
He did.
You didn't see him for a little while,
but he didn't lose anything.
Well,
he didn't lose any.
Not yet.
At all.
Not yet. I mean, the president's president for 4 years, unless we know. So he's not going to go anywhere. But I think what you're seeing is that we can clap back with it, like people say, or argue about the things that are being said. And I think that in some instances probably needs to be done. But the effective way of dealing with this is getting them out of office, making that whole groundswell, whatever that issue is, making those people extinct from a political perspective. You know, not paying them any attention, not voting them for them, and then getting rid of them, but then not resurrecting them again just in case, you know, candidates aren't doing well.
Well, in November, we might see some of that, right? If there's a blue wave across the country.
You go. If the blue wave
if the
is
Senate
authentic.
flips.
Right.
Well, if the Senate, you'll hear it first right here on Funky Politics. If the Senate flips, you'll hear it a couple of days before, because Marcus and I have got this intuition kind of thing going, right, Marcus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. You know, I want to go.
As long
back,
as it's inspired by some, you know,
some real numbers
jack, and some gentleman jack.
Oh yeah, we can predict the future in this place.
You have to bet against us for us to predict it, though.
I want some lottery numbers. Yeah, predicting stuff.
Well, you got to bet against us, though. You got to say something like it's going to be a red wave or something. Then we'll.
You know, and speaking of a red wave, we still have the. We still have the present administration, which is governing on a red wave. But let's talk about a little bit about Omarosa. Omarosa just she's in the news a lot lately, and I don't think it's very positive
to say the least.
To say the least. And some things have been said about her, and she said some things about the president and the administration that she worked under. Mm-hmm. Is that are we coming to her defense? You all
just said you would invite her to your picnic.
Well, no, I said I would. Wendy didn't want her to come.
No, she's not at Wendy's. So she's not at Wendy's picnic.
Hey, call me, Omarosa.
She's in the back of your picnic.
901-525-CASH. Call me, Omarosa. But anyway.
But yeah, I mean, you see people running to Aunt Maxine's defense.
Right.
But I haven't really seen that kind of, folks riding for Omarosa, and I think that she kind of made a deal with the devil, so to speak, and now I don't know, but it kind of feels like maybe there's a double standard at work here. Because
I think a lot of it is that people feel like Omarosa can hold her own, and she's holding her own.
I'm not so sure, but I think
we think Maxine.
And then also you got to remember this.
Really,
Maxine, but in all things though, Maxine is a representative politician. She represents people, so therefore she's going into the situation representing. She has constituents from her district, if nothing else, and she's always represented causes that other African Americans have been aligned with.
Okay, so let's take Jamil Hill, right? So she's not an elected official. She's just a regular citizen,
right?
Maybe closer to Omarosa clearly than Maxine would be. And folks were defending Jamil,
but she was not.
Absolutely.
She's not in the political realm. She's just making an independent statement as a sports journalist about the president, and not trying to get involved too much into politics.
Well, I
think that's why
I want to go in on Omarosa. I want to go in on Omarosa.
Omarosa is deep in the game. Okay,
sure.
She is face to face with the dragon. Okay. And so she's actually involved with him, personally involved with him. She, like you said, she's made her deal. Her blood is on the contract. So if they have a dispute, they're just going to have to hash it out. And we're going to look at it as sort of a domestic situation between them until...
so that's their fight. We're not involved with it?
Until something comes out that seems to relate or seems to somehow drag all of us in, like him calling her a dog.
What about low life? What about low life first?
Well,
the first thing he said was he didn't say dog first.
Okay.
He said low life.
All right.
She's a low life.
Okay.
I mean, come on now.
Nobody said anything about low life.
I think a lot of people might have agreed with that.
But when the dog thing came, it seemed to be more wholesale about African Americans versus just one African American. Mm-hmm. And at that point, then people started to change their mind. Then you got to remember this. Her credibility was kind of on the line along with his.
I agree with you.
Then she starts dropping these tapes like smart bombs.
Yeah.
Well, remember
and then
when
people
she
started
said
saying, "Oh,
people
wow.
were going to bow down to Trump?"
Right.
And
she did say that. She did say that.
That didn't sit right with a lot of folks. I mean, especially people of faith. Bow down.
And don't forget about her infamous Trump train video.
Oh yeah.
Choo choo.
Oh wow. Choo choo. You're hearing it first right here on Funky Politics
choo, choo.
on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Choo choo.
Politics is what we do. We just make it funky.
Powered by MLG&W, Memphis Light Gas and Water.
Best in Blue.
There's a picture that's been floating around social media, especially Facebook. That's probably got 7 or 8 little old church ladies standing on the porch, and they all got their hats on, they all carrying purses, and it says, "My first police." The only police that I've ever been afraid of was that group. That was me growing up.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN's getting funky. Funky politics.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come on. Just a little bit, hey, baby, just a little bit.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm DC, sitting here along with my good friend and co-host, Doc Ward. Doctor, what's up, sir?
Man,
that's my bad voice.
I'm man. It's funky in here like the circus.
Yeah, I didn't take a shower.
Like the circus.
We've got Wendi Thomas, a worldwide journalist. Shelby County had the largest turnover in history in terms of one party to another one since we've had partisan primaries.
Overhaul.
And I will say
A sweep.
Overhaul.
It was an overhaul. Now hold on. There were a couple of Democratic candidates that did lose. It was on the commission side, though, right? But I will say this:
the judge.
Besides that, he wasn't.
Yeah, Michael Ford.
Besides that, you had the biggest change we've seen in our lifetime right here in Shelby County.
An overhaul.
Yeah, but it was overdue, right?
It was overdue. But now, in terms of equity and economic development, do we see a change coming? I'm just asking.
Right. Because under the old government, that seemed to be the reverberating clang. We don't get African Americans and other historical, I'm not going to say minorities now because we're not in this region at all.
Right.
But historical minorities were not getting equity and parity when it came to jobs, business opportunities, and other things. So now you've had this overhaul of that made national news.
Yeah.
Now on the other end, poverty in Memphis has also made national news.
Right.
So now these two news stories come together. Are they able to reconcile? Now that you have a brand new government, are we at the beginning of something special right here in the new chocolate city, as we used to call it?
I think that we've made a lot of the blue wave coming in, but I think a lot of it depends on what they do once they get in office, right? Because we've had a whole bunch of Democrats/progressives in office before, and we've gotten what we have now. So it's no guarantee, just because their bodies are there, that they're behind in the chairs, that what would you
say we have now? How would you depict?
We have an opportunity.
Okay.
We have an opportunity,
I like that term.
but I think it's still up to voters to keep these candidates or these elected officials now accountable for what they're going to do. So are you going to get in and are you going to change things up, or are you going to kind of just mark time, or are you going to try to govern like you're trying to run again, right? And so I think you should be governing like this is your last term. What can we dismantle? What can we accomplish? Like one of the things that I would love to see the county mayor do first day would be to come in and say, we're not cooperating with ICE anymore. And the sheriff too. We're not cooperating with ICE when it comes to handing over people who are undocumented.
Can we do that legally, though? I thought
they absolutely can do that. So in other communities, you've had sheriff's departments and DAs come out and say they are not going to cooperate with ICE anymore. Now, do you think the folks here have the courage to do that? I don't know. I guess we'll see. But there are things that they could do day one coming in to signal that this is a new day. So we'll see.
Well, I'd like to know that answer. Maybe we can pose that to the new incoming mayor at some point.
Perhaps.
And ask if that's something that's on his agenda.
Perhaps.
What is number 2? I want to know what number 2 is in your list.
So number 2 on my list would probably have to do with juvenile court. So y'all know the federal oversight currently now of juvenile court, which was found to be discriminating against black children, treating them more harshly at every turn.
Absolutely.
This was a 2012 investigation, and frankly, the juvenile court has not embraced the changes that need to happen. And you had the prior county mayor, sheriff, all trying to get the federal government to leave. They petitioned Jeff Sessions to end that oversight. Right. The new county mayor, Lee Harris, could come in on day one and say, I am rescinding that request to the federal government. The sheriff could sign on as well.
Already, hadn't he sent that signal
already? Well, he said that he would, but are you going to do that day one?
I hadn't heard from the sheriff yet. But I think on the campaign trail.
But you've got a lot of people that have to be aligned for that to work, from the sheriff to the mayor.
No, you just need the sheriff and the mayor, because now you've got the juvenile court judge that's sitting out there by himself now.
Right. And the DA, I think, also signed on that letter. And you're never going to get the DA to
two by two.
I mean, I understand legally, but I'm saying from a practical perspective, all these people have to be in some kind of line, because the administration of that is going to occur.
Well, the county funds juvenile court, right? And so the county commission has the authority and influence to say, if this is what y'all want to end this federal oversight. And that's kind of where it starts. Watch this. That's really where it starts. And that requires accountability, and it's up to the voters to keep them accountable.
Right.
Well, do you think, because we've got a new county mayor and a new county sheriff who happens to be African American, do you think that
first elected?
You first elected? Well, not on the county mayor side, but on the sheriff.
On the sheriff side,
the sheriff, not the mayor, right?
Do you see I guess a change? Do you really see a change coming in the ICE policy, though? Do you really think that's going to be on the table? I mean,
I don't know if it.
If you were a good guesser, just a good guesser.
I don't know if it will happen, but it could happen, right? And if you're gonna say that this is a new day, it's a new era, we're gonna be progressive.
Sure.
Shelby County is 54% black, and really, it's kind of incredible that there was this Republican white stranglehold on county-wide offices as long as there were, because just in the numbers game, should have been black folks holding these offices all along.
Black people were not voting.
Well,
so if you're going to have 54, and it hasn't always been 54. It hasn't always been 54% African American.
But it's been that these are 2010 census numbers, so it's been that for for a second.
Yeah, you didn't have the voter turnout, and so if you didn't have the voter turnout, but then because if you had good voter turnout, and I'm going a step further, there have been all types of claims that these elections have been manipulated for years. Okay. If you had the voter turnout that you needed to have, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to have manipulations, okay?
But I think I
seem to remember, and I don't remember what year it was, where there were 3 black candidates that were running for clerkships. And I think with 3 precincts left at the end of the night, they were ahead by a large enough margins to win.
14.
People went to bed thinking 14. That there was going to be sort of somewhat of what we have now, not quite, but somewhat, and woke up the next day to see all 3 of those candidates defeated. Really?
Yeah.
Some things you don't have to dig deep into. You know that the fix is in.
I would say that if you wanted to have you want to have full confidence in an election body, in a commission, this one is not the one in Shelby County. And I'm not casting aspersions, but you can't say that the numbers are in and in by 10:30. Well, we believe we're going to have some figures. Come on, folks.
Yeah.
You got a cloud-based system there. This is a lot simpler than you're making this thing.
What time did the election results come out? The city election a couple of years ago, they came out all at once at the end of the day. I've never seen that before. We used to see trickle in. Now it's starting to come a new dynamic where we wait for about 2-3 hours.
And you wait.
And then you get everything at once.
It's amazing to me.
Well, we had the early voting numbers early, obviously.
Well, no, you got
early voting numbers. I think dropped at 9:30.
That was like 9:30, and then everything else just came in right there.
The polls closed at 7. The polls closed at 7, and there's no reason why that those election officers cannot get those polls wrapped up by 7:45. You have good numbers by 8 o'clock. There's no reason. I worked them. I've done it. There's no reason. It's training, and its emphasis if that's what you want.
Right.
But if you want to convolute, if you want to confuse the election result, I don't know. I'm not.
Well, there were some issues with this.
Sure, there were.
With this election, you started out with the lawsuit that the NAACP and the Shelby County party had to file because they were trying to restrict the early voting sites in a way that was going to depress the black voter, create difficulties trying to get to the poll.
Right, it was access to the polls.
Right, and they had to sue over that. Right, and then you had remember when they finally got some of the early voting sites together inside the loop, Mississippi Boulevard opened an hour late.
Right.
So there was just.
But I believe though, even with all of that, with that disparity, with what people's perception is, particularly the African American community, is about the voting, with David Lenoir's, excessive attacks on you. And totally irrelevant attacks on you, I must say. And everything else going on with Donald Trump, that's the perfect storm. That's the gumbo that led to what we have right now.
I think you're right. I think that the national perspective from the president had a very direct effect on what happened on local races all over the country.
But I also want to jump in here and say that there were lots of local, on the ground, get out the vote efforts that did a great job. So you're looking at Reverend Earl Fisher, Up the Vote 901. They got people out, got people really engaged.
New voters
right here on Funky Politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network. But now, new voters, I will say this, early voting, and I saw the numbers, early voting looked very good for Democrats. It looked extremely well. I will tell you right now, in early voting, there was about 15,000 vote difference on just about the majority of races, right? And so I saw early, I said, oh my goodness, if Republicans do not turn out, and I'm going to tell you right now, they did not turn out.
No, I think they were turned off by statewide races.
Well, statewide, which were filtered down from the national party, right? And of course, the national party from your president.
And the values in this part of the state are different from the values on the other parts of the state, especially when it comes to cultural and issues.
Well, I will say this. In Knox County, there was no big swing because understand that the voting electorate in Knox County, you're looking at maybe 75, 80% on that side versus another 16 to 20% on this side. And so you're not going to, now if you saw a blue wave up there, then you know the good Lord has come then. The good Lord has come and he don't like Republicans anymore. And that's how it works. But it didn't happen. But in Madison County and some of these other smaller counties that have a very large number of Republican voters, it really stayed the same. Only in Shelby, where you had a competitive number, is when it changed, okay? And so we were galvanized, and I will say this, black voters did come out. White Democratic voters actually came out as well, and they stayed with the Democratic ticket.
But the Shelby County Democratic Party is a lot stronger today than it was a year ago,
I think
2 years ago.
I call the chairman. Let me tell you something, young man. You have done yeoman's work. You've done something I've never seen anybody do. You've done yeoman's work.
So let's translate that science to art. So now people have come out and they voted. We were talking about down the road about what some things are that we see in this, and I'm looking at it globally. I mean, as we change from this red wave to the blue wave, what's going to keep the blue wave, what's going to sustain the blue wave when it gets into power now? Because the red wave was there off of stopping healthcare, they didn't do it.
Yes, right.
Lowering your taxes and creating jobs, which they
building
did.
The wall.
Which all they did from federal all the way down was just defer the deficit.
Yeah.
So there was nothing that's been done really since the president's been in office, and nothing that's been done from their red wave success or anything. So what is it that the blue wave is going to have to do this time in order to be successful? Because Democrats, I'm going to be honest with you, they've got a real, heartfelt sort of initiative. They really care about people, but caring about people and compassion is not a sustainable strategy. It does not keep you in office. It gets you there for about 4 years. Then you can't fight anybody and you can't make it. So what are we going to? Well, it's happened. Look at what happened. Look at what happened in 2000.
I disagree with that. I think you can be compassionate.
I'm not saying you can't be. I think you can. I'm saying the strategy hadn't been working. I'm saying the strategy hasn't been working. So what do you think that the blue side, now the Democrats, going to have to do to sustain their leadership?
I think the Democrats don't have to look like they're Republicans. I think if you're a Democrat,
it's got to be more than that. That's reactionary.
I think if you won center left, I think you got to stay center left. If you go center right,
which means what?
Center right, then what you've done is you turn off that electorate that put you in office to change.
Yeah, I'm with him. So are Democrats going to try to move more center to try to get back these people they felt like they lost?
My question is, what are their issues on healthcare? What are their issues on defense? What are their issues on gun laws? What are their issues on the economy? What are their issues on anything related to equal rights? What are their issues related to anything on education? What are their issues that they're going to run on that's going to sustain them?
Are you talking about on a federal level, or are you talking about on statewide, or are you talking about on a local level?
On
a local level, you take all of that out of the way. On a local level, just take all of that away.
You can't take education away.
I can't tell you. Gun policy is not set on a local level.
But I'm not talking about gun policy. That's what education is. Education policy is.
Well, no doubt.
Now, gun policy is not.
You're for safe schools, right? Safe schools. You're for safe schools on the state level, the federal level, and the local level, right?
Yeah.
State schools.
But safety might not be my number one priority.
Nobody in this county or this state wants to put a gun in a teacher's hand. Number one.
Safety might not be my number one priority.
Number two, are we for putting more money into choice schools? Or are we more putting money into the public districts that we have right now and beefing them up? That's not going to be an argument that we're going to see if this new county mayor is going to make. I'm going to put more money into the public system, or am I going to put more money into the choice piece? Now, I agree with you on that one. But defense, it's just one of those things. I don't know. But anyway.
So I think Democrats could push for a higher minimum wage, right? The federal minimum wage hasn't been raised since I think 2009. Okay. That's overdue. Right. You could have bolster Obamacare. That would be overdue. Strengthen the social.
Try to repair that now.
Right, and undo some of the policies, particularly in the Department of Education, DeVos, that she's put forward. It may just be more undoing the damage that's been done. That may have to be the agenda.
If it's possible.
And that's the last word, undoing the damage that's already been done. Thank you, Wendi Thomas.
That'll keep you there for more than 4 years.
Oh, wow. You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Say the Cavs go and they beat this great team that the Warriors have assembled. Is he the greatest of all time?
If they can pull this out, they're going to be one of the best teams.
And I'm so tired of everybody bringing up Michael Jordan. When they start talking about how great LeBron James is. You got a whole generation of folks ain't never seen Michael Jordan play. When you try to play small ball against the Cavs, Kevin Love goes inside and just punishes you.
R&R on sports. Part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.
This is Wendi Thomas, editor and publisher of MLK50, and you're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We're at the end of the show. We've got to go. So we invite you all to take it slow. We've had a good time, but now time has passed. We had the FUNK-Nomenal Woman, Wendi Thomas. She talked to us about women and things they should be, the roles they should play. And I guess we'll wait and see. She talked to us about where we stand as a people after MLK. Yeah. What are we going to do? What are we going to say? But in all things we learned from this time that has passed, that we have to get up off of our what?
BRQPW.
What? And we got to get active, y'all.
That's right.
Got to get active. Because now the celebrations, the champagne, the hoopla, the dancing, the singing, and all of those things have ended. It's time for us to be about the business of making the change that we want to see, being the change that we want to be. So one thing that you can do is turn off that idiot box that's going to tell you the same thing over and over again, and turn on something and get something in your head that's going to build you up as an individual, like Wendi Thomas MLK50 series, or like Funky Politics, because we're going to give it to you real, right, and funky every day, every time we're on. And we invite you to stay with us, not just this show, but every show we do every time. So now it's time for us to get off our heels and on our wheels. And until next time, for DC, I'm MD, and we invite you, we implore, and we demand. Yeah, we demand.
I like that.
We demand that you keep it real, keep it right.
You always got to keep it funky.
Funky Politics, recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studio, directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.